What was interesting is back in the late 80s when I was in high school, there were more nonstops to Phoenix from O'Hare than any other city in the world had O'Hare.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because I always, in my car, I listen to the Wow Factor on Phoenix, that radio station over here.
I wonder if CBS is in Cody. I've been in shame on 2 stories now.
Really?
Yeah. Have you not?
I did last week.
Did you? Yeah. He doesn't have a reporter yet because I don't think they have reporters yet. But yeah, I ran into him. I was at Officer Rose's funeral when he was there for that, and then we need the CDC. Both by himself. He's all wearing his all CBS gear. He's very excited. I know.
Go.
I hate the green knuckles are killing me. Ginger beer connected.
It's weird. My personal phone is good.
Do you have iMessages shut off or something?
I don't think so. It's just when, it says iMessage failed.
Hmm.
Hey, you'll just go straight down here. Yeah.
Yep. Ding, 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 ding.
Is there anyone else coming, you guys, or are they still?
2.
Oh, they are.
Why y'all putting them fuzzy things over those microphones? What does it do?
It cuts down the wind by like 95%.
So they're kind of more for like outside
Yes,
stuff.
ma'am. So if you guys were having a conversation, we could use our regular mics, and that would cut down all the ambient noise and probably just get mostly your conversation. You wouldn't hear it.
Gotcha.
Kind of thing.
Always wondered that.
they don't have another station here, so they're put tons of resources for you guys to play along.
Yeah, I was hoping, in the fall when I sat, and I'm, yeah, very separate, it worked. Hopefully it doesn't work. Cause a scene.
Tom Jones is curious about those things.
I don't know what my guy is.
He was active.
Yeah, I saw him.
Mark Mills.
Yeah, when I was saying someone big to security.
Probably talking.
Well, Mark Melvin's like, he knows the security people, he was probably just catching up.
Next time.
Right, to include in there. So
Pictures.
we were trying to figure out how to break them up, but I guess we'll find out.
Pictures
You
are
know what
good,
these
man.
are.
Hey, by the way, Tom, let me tell you what the one lesson is about when you work with Lewis in the field. No matter what the malt box is, he'll hear a buzz. Even if it's crystal clear, like you and I having a conversation right now, he hears a buzz.
Lewis?
Yes. There's a buzz, there's a buzz. Ah, there it is. It's a buzz.
This is your buzz.
Yeah.
Maybe you must have good insurance, his ears checked. Maybe he's got a rub, a fumble, thing in your, a hum or something.
We had them come out, but by the time they got there, it took us a while, so Karen and I got back at like, when we get back, 10:30?
No, it's not Lewis, it's Dwayne. It's Dwayne.
Oh, Dwayne.
Dwayne is the buzz, not Lewis. Dwayne.
Like Lewis retired.
Yeah.
Is Buzz Daly still there, or did he finally retire?
No, they let me go.
He lived up?
Said it been after.
To be honest with you, I thought that would happen in 20 years.
Yeah. Everybody says that.
He wasn't
I
exactly
was the one
self-starting.
sitting here going, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking.
You know, if you're not a self-starting like Tom, at least you're going for the motions.
Did you say always or different? Oh, okay. I said always, I'm like, I don't know, maybe they don't have it. I know, and I felt so bad. I was
want to thank you all for being here this afternoon. My name is Dahlia Racine, D-A-L-I-A R-A-C-I-N-E, and I have the pleasure of serving as a district attorney here in Douglas County. Today, I will be addressing two separate and unrelated matters. The first case update will be in regard to the incident with Malachi Mitchell. On January 25th of 2025, a vehicle was stopped in Douglas County near the Lithia Springs Home Depot by Douglas County Sheriff's Department. When the deputies went to approach this vehicle, the driver started yelling. They tried to set me up. I defended my life. He tried to kill me. They observed a deceased individual in the passenger seat with multiple gunshot wounds to the back of his head. He was later identified as Malachi Mitchell. The driver informed law enforcement that there were two guns in the vehicle. Deputies observed these two pistols, one an AR-style pistol and the second a tan Glock 9mm. The AR-style pistol had the gun separated from the magazine, and the second firearm, a tan Glock 9mm, was next to where the driver's right leg would have been. Through their investigation, law enforcement learned that Mitchell and the driver, who were acquainted through school years ago, had coordinated a time to meet up and for the driver to meet Mitchell to purchase the weapon in the amount of $800 cash. According to the driver, the gun deal took place in the driver's vehicle. He stated that Mitchell tried to change the location of that sale multiple times, and the driver began to feel uneasy about the deal, but decided to still meet up with Mitchell at the new location, which was in close proximity to where Mitchell's home was located. The driver stated Mitchell attempted to get him to exit his vehicle to complete the gun sale, and the driver insisted that they do the deal in his vehicle since he wasn't familiar with the area. Mitchell removed the magazine from the gun and provided the rest of the weapon to the driver. At that point, the driver produced the $800 cash to Mitchell. The driver then requested the magazine based on the sale being complete, and Mitchell insisted on putting the gun, quote, back together. The driver stated that he was very familiar with how to assemble the weapon and said he would do it himself. At that point, the driver stated Mitchell started to exhibit strange behavior and that the driver told him to calm down. Soon thereafter, Mitchell lunged at the driver, trying to grab the gun that was just sold and that he had in his possession by climbing over the console and into the driver's seat area. A struggle ensued between the two parties, and Mitchell was attempting to load the magazine back into the gun during that struggle. The driver, who was familiar with the operation of weapons, fought Mitchell to release the magazine, and he racked the weapon, which caused a round in the chamber to be ejected. Mitchell continued to lean over the driver's area and was still grabbing at the gun that was being sold. According to the driver, Mitchell then reached back to his waistband and told the driver, "I got something for you." The driver thought that Mitchell was armed with another weapon, and the driver, who was armed with his own separate gun, the 9mm that was located in the vehicle. Fearing for his life during this attempted robbery, the driver shot Mitchell as he leaned over him with the driver's own pistol. The driver, familiar with the fact that Mitchell and his associates bragged about guns and violence on social media, thought that those individuals may be in the area since Mitchell tried to set him up during the sale and he was located close to Mitchell's home. Fearing for his life in retaliation from Mitchell's associates, the driver fled from the residence with Mitchell still in the vehicle. He started driving around trying to figure out what to do. He called multiple family members and friends who corroborated that the driver was panicked and fearful as they spoke to him. The driver stated that he continued to drive because he was scared to call the police, as he was a young black male covered in blood with a dead body in his car. And he was afraid that he may be killed upon being stopped. He did not want to drive to any family or friends' home because he was afraid that Mitchell's associates may be following him, and he didn't want to put his loved ones in danger. While on the phone with a family member, the driver committed a traffic infraction and was pulled over by the Douglas County Sheriff's Department. Law enforcement notated that the driver was fearful when they stopped him and extremely cautious when providing instruction, and the driver even explained to law enforcement that he was not going to move his hands from being up in the air in order to put the car in park, and requested that law enforcement be the ones to do it out of fear for being injured. The Sheriff's Department carefully dealt with the driver during this initial interaction and were able to remove the driver safely from the car and take him into custody and over to the Sheriff's Department to be interviewed. The driver and his family were cooperative with law enforcement, many providing corroborative statements and information that matched the physical evidence collected as part of this investigation. The evidence in the vehicle, including the description of the state of the weapons, the ejected bullet, and the location of physical evidence, corroborated the version of facts as told by the driver. Social media evidence and other information that was learned through this investigation has shown that Mitchell claimed to be a member of a gang, along with several other witnesses in this matter. The images on social media depicted groups with guns and statements of violence. In addition, several of Mitchell's associates posted threats to the driver and his family after this incident occurred. In order to understand the incident from this day, from Malachi Mitchell's death, law enforcement attempted to interview his mother, other family members, and Mitchell's associates with links to the January 25th events to gain a full understanding of what happened. All attempts to gain additional information from Mitchell's side of the facts were unsuccessful, as witnesses were uncooperative and or unwilling to provide additional information. As is our duty in every case that comes before our office, we did a thorough review of all the information presented and attempted to obtain additional information as needed. Our office was able to speak to a family member of the deceased who stated they believed Mitchell had no intention of actually selling the gun to the driver, and that he was setting the driver up to rob him of his money and other belongings based on conversations that they had with Mitchell just the week before. So based on all of the facts, evidence, interviews, and totality of circumstances, we will not be pressing charges against the driver, as the evidence in this case supports that he acted in self-defense on January 25th, 2025. Malachi's Mitchell mother and the driver were informed of our decision this morning. We always desire to be fully transparent with the family of the deceased when we are investigating a matter. It becomes a peculiar situation when we believe that those family members may be aiding and hiding or blocking our attempts to fully understand the full situation of what took place during that incident. However, we know that grief shows up in many forms, and we will accept that grief in any way that it arrives at our office. We conducted a thorough examination along with our law enforcement partners to explore every lead to get to what happened that day, because that is what the deceased deserves. And unfortunately, there were roadblocks despite numerous attempts to speak with persons of interest that may have aided or abetted in this incident. And based on the totality of the investigation we were left with, we can't meet the burden of proof to bring formal charges against the driver, so we will not. And the evidence demonstrates that the driver was acting in self-defense, as he is lawfully allowed to do. Now, I want to be clear, to arrange a private gun sale late at night between parties that do not know each other that well is unwise, but it is not unlawful. We unfortunately have had to have these decisions with far too many grieving mothers who have lost their children, where we are unable to move forward with charges. And even when we are unable to move forward with charges, we continue to offer services and resources that can be helpful during their unimaginable time of pain. And this was offered in this case. We remain open and available to any and all evidence that could shed any additional information on the events of that day. This is a tragedy all around. One young person lost their life, and another has to live with the fact that they had to take a life. Our determination as to whether charges should be brought has been fully vetted and reviewed, and again, we are unable to press charges against the driver at this time. These decisions are never made lightly, but it is our duty to follow the evidence as we did in this case. I will take a couple of questions about this case before we transition to the next one.
What was Malachi's mother's state of mind when you informed her of your decision?
Ms. Mitchell was obviously not happy with our decision about this, which is completely understandable. But we reiterated the fact that we are still here to support her and connect her with any services that she may need during this time.
I want to make it clear, you mentioned that several factions on that Malachi side, you were unsuccessful in getting statements from them. Did that include his mother?
We were able to speak with her, but we were not able to obtain additional information that could be helpful to the investigation.
I want to go back to I know you said gang activity here was at play. Do we think at this point the driver knew that Mitchell was involved with a gang? Because I know we're talking about gun sales late at night, but he showed up. Was there any inclination there that this could be gang that he was heading into?
What we understand from the driver's perspective is that what he described is the Mitchell having shady associates. He did not specifically articulate he knew that he was gang involved, but he did state that he was aware of these social media posts in which Mitchell would be posting along with other associates with weapons and things along those lines.
Madam DA, there was in part of the mother, Malachi's mother, a public campaign to get you to charge the driver. Did any of that impact your office? Did you hear from the community about this, and how did that weigh in on your decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. The work that we do along with our law enforcement partners, we don't have the luxury, if you will, of weighing in emotions. We are facts-driven, we are evidence-driven, and we have to make really hard decisions at times, and we have to follow those facts and weigh it against what the law allows us to do. And that's exactly what we did in this case. We don't want that to mitigate, nor, as we explained to Ms. Mitchell, this does not put any value on the life that Malachi Mitchell lived, nor does it weigh against the grief that we know that she feels, but our job is to follow the facts and the evidence.
Can you also speak on the driver's reaction when you told him this?
Yes, we will just say that the driver had relieved to understand what the findings were in this matter.
Although you said you're not pressing charges now, but is the case still open in case the other people want to come forward, or it's pretty much?
At this point, we are considering the case closed. We will formally close it probably sometime this week. But as is with any murder case, if there is additional information, we are able to reopen that. And that includes any evidence that may exist on any parties that aided or abetted in the attempted armed robbery of the driver.
Madam DA, one more question. You mentioned that, I think you said the family said that there was Malachi didn't intend to sell the weapon?
We have not received that information from the family or any of the facts gathered in this case. All right. With that, we will go ahead and transition. If we could take a moment to transition to the next matter. Good afternoon again. At this time, we would like to focus our attention to the Bobby Lee Hart matter. Bobby Lee Hart was arrested last month and charged in connection with 3 separate rapes that occurred in Douglas County in 2012, 2022, and 2024. It is important to note, Hart has not been convicted of crimes at this point, and it is also important to note that I cannot talk about the evidence beyond the limited information I will provide in this moment. The purpose of this press conference is to inform the public that Hart has been arrested and to urge those who may have information or experience with Hart to contact our office or law enforcement. I would also like to applaud the work of our law enforcement partners, both the Douglas County Sheriff's Department and the Douglasville Police Department and other agencies that have brought this case to fruition. Since Hart's arrest, further testing and investigation have revealed that Hart is a suspect in multiple sexual assaults dating back to the early 1990s in the West Georgia region. We are informing the public of this matter to request anyone with additional information or who has been victimized by Hart to please come forward. Some of these developments came from CODIS hits, which means DNA evidence from older sexual assault cases that have matched to the suspect's DNA. To briefly explain, CODIS is the Combined DNA Index System, which is a national database that allows law enforcement to compare DNA profiles collected from crime scenes against known offenders or other cases. When we say we received a, quote, hit, that means DNA evidence from a crime scene has matched DNA linked to an individual or another case, helping investigators make connections that might otherwise have been missed. Because these crimes span more than 3 decades, we are sharing a variety of photographs of Hart from different time periods so that people, if they did know him, may recognize him as he appeared at different points in time. Hart has also gone by multiple aliases over the year, including Maurice, Robert, Kevin, Champ, Meat, and King. If there are additional survivors who have come forward in the past and were turned away for various reasons, or who have not come forward yet, we want to send a clear message to those individuals. You are not alone. We are here to listen to you. Coming forward takes tremendous courage, but we have resources and advocates ready to support you. Our office has investigators, prosecutors, and advocates all specially trained to handle sexual assault cases and are here to speak with you. If you believe you may have been a victim of Bobby Hart, or if you have information related to his crimes, please contact our office at 770-920-7292 or email us at da@douglascountyga.gov. Or you can contact any of our local law enforcement agencies to share any information that you may have. Thank you for your time today, and thank you to our community and law enforcement partners for standing with us as we continue to seek justice on behalf of these victims. Are there any questions on this matter? Again, with the caveat that there's very limited information that we could share at this time since it is an open investigation.
I know you said there were 3. I just am getting an email from my office about a 4th warrant served on 8/29, which would be the 4th rape victim. Can you confirm that at this point?
That is correct.
So there were 4.
There are 4 that have been charged. We are finalizing that service of that warrant.
Okay.
When will he be back in court and be arraigned?
We don't know what that date will be. We do plan to indict this case within the 90-day time frame that is legally mandated.
You're a Douglas County resident?
We cannot comment on any additional information at this time.
So what was the problem that these victims have been out there for so long? Is the fact that you didn't have the DNA, or you didn't have the evidence to link them, or what is it?
I would love to provide additional information on that, but at this time we are unable to give those specifics at this point in time.
Can you talk about the difficulty in prosecuting these cases? Because a lot of victims don't always come forward or want to come forward, especially if we're talking about cases from the 90s.
Yeah, great question. What we, unfortunately, those of us who specialize in sexual assault crimes, prior to becoming the elected, that was an area that I had the honor to work within, and we have an amazing team that's standing behind me who does this work day in and day out on behalf of the citizens of Douglas County. Disclosing a sexual assault is probably one of the most difficult decisions that a survivor can make, because once they come forward, they are put into this process, and it can be grueling. I'm not gonna lie. But what we can do is we can assure that we will give them the support, the resources, and stand with them as they go through this process. And when you talk about somebody who perhaps was victimized decades ago, who tries to bury it, who tries to not think about it, it can be very traumatizing for these things to come back up. So it can be a very difficult time, but what we have seen is that our victims that are able to come forward, because it is an ability to be able to disclose these really difficult, horrible things that have happened, we assure them that we will not leave their side. All right, thank you all very much.
Excuse me. Can I get the picture, his pictures up again?